Karmic debt. Numbers 13, 14, 16, and 19. Number 13. For instance, the life path 13 is often a karmic debt issue due to a previous life, which was to do with lack of care in one's work, perhaps being lazy in a previous lifetime, or even taking advantage of others. The 1 of the 13 represents the individual and the ego, and one's personal experiences, and the 3 represents expression of optimism. The 13 is to do with accountability and attitude in this lifetime, and emphasis toward hard work and perseverance, towards achievement of goals in order to repay the karmic debt. One has to overcome one's own stress and insecurities and anxiety, and overcome one's rigid and uncompromising side, and learn not to be scattered or pessimistic. The karmic 13-4 is about finding the middle ground and not being too blunt or radical, and having to learn diplomacy, and to be careful not to self-destruct or take shortcuts, and allow the releasing and the working through of one's lessons from past lives with forgiveness. Number 14. A 14 is all about control and failure, to control in a previous life, so in other words, to direct one's energy and happiness in order to satisfy one's own needs, to be careful in love and commitment, and being together with one person without wasting energy, differentiating the wrong people from the right people to give energy to, and realizing that change is inevitable. In a previous lifetime, 14 meant that one's freedom could have been abused, and in this lifetime, the need to learn to adapt and work through addiction or overindulgence issues, as well as maintaining emotional stability and focusing on goals and dreams, are indeed the karmic lesson. Maintaining focus and clarity and being adaptable and flexible in one's immediate environment is all part of this 14 journey. 14-5 is an aspect regarding maturity and can highlight difficulties on certain topics in life to do with the misuse of freedom in a previous manifestation. The balance of security and stability and a step-by-step process for responsibility and hard work is the key to working through the karmic lessons. Learning not to be selfish and learning not to be self-absorbed, not to misuse freedom at the expense of others, and learning to take full responsibility and recognizing and balancing excess behavior. Overcoming relationship difficulties, like holding on to a bad or an addictive relationship, or jumping from job to job. Overcoming an unhealthy sense of independence, needing to practice self-discipline, and becoming interdependent. By focusing and facing these things head-on and doing the work, rather than feeling victimized, this can involve going through an intense self-reconstruction process, and at the same time extracting oneself from these destructive paths, becoming more committed to learning these difficult life lessons. So a 14 can also be a roller coaster ride, but it is imperative not to give up on one's goals and dreams. 16 is the destruction of the old and the birth of the new, and is about overcoming one's ego. It involves breaking down what you previously built, and can involve some self-destruction in career choice or ruining a wonderful relationship. And the karmic debt is indeed the battle that follows, and learning to approach life with new awareness. The debt can involve isolation and loneliness, as well as spiritual growth, and a consciousness to learn flexibility, to learn not to be stubborn, and to bring happiness to one's true self. A 16-7 involves the previous misuse of love and challenging of the ego, thus learning to be spiritual and to find one's higher purpose and actually turning the destruction into rebirth. A 16-7 can be difficult to approach as they isolate themselves. They can be withdrawn from the world, and their need for privacy or being emotionally detached and withdrawn from the world is the issue that they need to overcome. It takes effort and commitment, as well as openness to spirituality and intuition, literally rewiring oneself with trust and openness to overcome the karma that is involved in an intense reconstruction, not feeling victimized, working and understanding and acknowledging the lessons that are mastered. 19 is the karmic debt, to do with independence, and in fact learning to stand alone, to overcome personal power struggles that are usually self-imposed. They often do not want to listen to advice, and it is all about standing on one's own 2 feet and also being connected to others in an interdependent rather than totally independent manner. It is the wisdom and the powerful spiritual knowledge that represents the power and the bridges of higher knowledge that may have been misused in a previous manifestation. So if 19 is one of your core numbers, there may have been abuse of power as a theme, or having been self-centered or destructive in a narcissistic way, or even just plain stubbornness. So understanding optimism that the 19 karmic debt entails, that one has a debt to pay, indeed to do with constructing leadership, creativity, and achievement of independence. Thus, in order to make one's life easier, to see new perspective and enrich one's life with sincere friendships, exciting conversation, and the absence of loneliness. Learning not to judge and rather to try to see the positive side of things without being prejudiced or picky. Clearing the debt involves letting go of the patterns, learning to expose hypocrisy, and seeing things as they really are. The 1 is the number of new beginnings, and the 9 the number of letting go. The 1 is the self, and the 9 is the acceptance. So major lessons of self-acceptance in this lifetime, and an inner peace and ability to break through out of limitations and leading a conscious life. It is always interesting to see if there is karma and karmic debt in your chart, to be aware of it so that you can learn your life lessons and correct the debt in this lifetime and understand why at times and be consciously aware of evolving. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this. By Lauren.